Okay, week 4 of a Streamside fly tying class. We did the Clouser Minnow in the classic blue over white. Everybody did pretty good. I think most people got a couple, at least a couple done. Not super hard, so we'll just jump right in. I'm going to get my thread started right behind the eye here. And I'm going to put a little thread base down, about halfway back, maybe a little more. But that's as far as I'm going to go. We're not going to tie all the way to the bend on this one. Get a little thread base because we're going to put our eyes on, and if you try to tie directly to the hook shank without a good base, everything's going to want to slip on you. So I'm going to turn this so those of you that weren't here can see how I do this. I'm just going to hold these here, and I'm going to go at an angle, what we call X wrap. So I'm going to go from behind to in front 5-6 times, give some tension, and then go from in front to behind. And as I pull tension to it, you'll notice these eyes go from crooked to straight. And once you get them nice and straight, you're going to come up and you're going to go under the eye, like so, over the hook shank. Under the eye, over the hook shank. 4 or 5 times, pull nice and tight. Once you do that, your next few wraps need to be pretty tight. And what that's doing is it's constricting all those X wraps, so it's nice and tight. You don't need to glue anything. I mean, I'm pushing on these pretty hard. They're not twisting. And then we'll continue our thread base back a little bit and forward, and we'll end up in between our eyes and the eye of the hook, so we can tie in our first material, which today is going to be white bucktail. Again, with the Clouser, you can do any number of color combinations. The key though is that usually the lighter color is on the bottom. So I'm gonna clip off a little bit off my bucktail here. I'm gonna grab it at the top third mark and get out any short guys or random blue pieces that are in there. That's a little bit too much. I'm going to grab a couple of these out. Here we go. So now that we have our clump, measure that out, make sure it's as long as you think you want it. Once you get that length, you're going to trim the butts so you get a nice clean tie-in point. So I'm just going to do that now. We're going to take these, we're going to rest them right on top of these eyes, right in that little channel here, like so. And I like to spin my bobbin counterclockwise. And what that does is it's going to make my thread jump backwards. So when I go to capture these with loose wraps, I can actually keep my thread on top of the material. So once you get 2 good wraps on there, you can give it a little pressure. We're going to jump behind the eye, and we're going to capture these again behind the eye, like so. And then I'm going to take these and I'm going to wrap them in with nice touching turns. Not super tight though. We don't want too much flare going on here. If you want a little bit more flare, you can hold these and pull down, and they'll they'll spread out a little bit, but I don't want a ton of flare. So I'm just going to cover these, any open areas, with thread, come back to the front, and tidy up any loose stray ends here. And I'm going to end with my thread right here at my eyes. Now we're going to invert this hook. So with a rotary vise, you can just flip it over. If you don't have a rotary vise, you can take it out, flip the fly over, and clamp it back in there. Now we're going to take our flash material. We used a Krystal Flash. You could, I mean, really, you could use whatever you want, but the Krystal Flash, I believe, is the original material used. Grab a couple of those. We're going to bend this, or wrap this, I guess, around the thread. So I just came around the thread so that when I do another wrap, it's going to follow my thread, and I'm going to tie that in right on top. And I'm going to try to split my flash with the hook point. Get 3 on each side. And if you don't, it doesn't really matter. It's all going to end up crazy once the fish eats it anyways. We'll tie that in, get a little base going. And again, we're going to take our top color, again, bucktail. This one's a nice blue. And same amount you use for the bottom. Again, it's hard to tell you exactly how much to use, but if I had to try and tell you, it'd be 2 to 3 toothpicks. It's kind of what it feels like I'm holding. Again, we're going to take these, hold them by the tips, pull out any of the fluff and small stuff that we don't want. Turn this around and get our measurement here. So I want it the same length as my white. I'm going to come in and I'm going to hold this on the part I'm going to cut away. So I'm going to match my fingers up right here. And I'm going to cut this away. Nice clean cut. Nice even ends. It's easier to tie in that way. And I'm going to set this right on top. Again, twist my bobbin so my thread cooperates with me. Get one loose wrap, another loose wrap. Get some tension on it, because what will happen if you don't use enough tension, you will pull out, ooh, or you'll break your thread if you use too much tension. Let's see if I can save this here. Might get lucky here. Let's see. Tie this in. Got lucky. It's able to save it. So that can happen, obviously, it just did. You want to use enough tension, but not too much like I just did. And we'll get this. Oh, my flash is all screwed up. Anyway, get this tied in. I think I clipped where the eye of the hook comes back. It can be sharp right there. Build up a little head. I don't want too much, again, I don't want too much flare, so I'm using light wraps in the back and then tighter as I come forward. try to make this look better. And my flash got all caught up in my vise here. There we go. That's better. Make sure those materials are doing what you want them to. I've got my head looking right. Come in, do a little whip finish. Snip our thread. And then we can come back if we want to. Turn this over for a second. Come back and make sure we don't clip any bucktail, but clip our flash a little bit longer than the bucktail, but that's your basic Clouser Minnow.